Well, Red learned that he was blue, not red despite what everyone did to help him be red. Once he discovered he was blue, he could do so much. I wonder how I could use that lesson. One thing I might learn from this is maybe be who you are. That could be a central message from this story. Maybe also build on your strengths. Once Red found out he was blue, he could do a lot of great things. For the last 10 minutes of this section, Miss Q is going to join us today with an art extension on this story that we just read. I hope you enjoy, and I'm so excited to see what she has planned.
2, 1.
Welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us for this session of At Home with APS. I'm Mrs. Kraft, and today I'm going to introduce a new vocabulary word for you. Later on, we're going to be joined by our friends Miss Kathy, who's going to work on some phonics, Mrs. Kay, who's going to read you a story, and then Mrs. Lori, who is going to work on a writing project with you. So we're excited to have you with us today. Remember, this session is geared mainly for second and third graders. However, if you have friends of other ages with you, we definitely invite them to come in and join us for this learning. Likewise, if there is a grown-up supporting you right now, welcome and thank you for supporting our students here in this learning fashion. All right, so let's get started. Remember, last week we looked at inventions and that question, that essential question of where do ideas for inventions come from? So this week we are looking at a little bit different essential question, which is what value does technology have in people's lives? And if you remember from Monday, we read a story and it was a nonfiction story. What does that word nonfiction mean? Can you say it to your TV right now? If you said real, that is absolutely correct. If you didn't know, that's okay because we're going to keep talking about that. So on Monday, we read a story about a technology called the Band-Aid. Remember Mr. Earl and Miss Josephine? They invented this technology that was really new in the 1900s. And yet, nobody had thought about it. And today, we use them all the time. But the perfect storm happened, right, for them to create this invention. It didn't happen the first time. It didn't even happen the first year. But remember Miss Anna's vocabulary word of perseverance? They persevered, and they pushed it through and revised their invention, and it became an incredible thing that we still use today. So when you think of technology, again, remember, technology is not always the computer or the iPad that you use. It's applying scientific knowledge. All right, let's get started on our vocabulary word that we're going to look at today. This is one of my favorite words. This word is probably one that your teachers have used in the classroom with you, and it's an amazing word because of not only the letters that are in it, but the meaning of the word also. So our vocabulary word today is, can you say this word to your TV? Awesome. Did you say unique? That's right. So this is a little bit different word, right? Look at the letters in it. We have the U. The U says its name, doesn't it? Unique. And then we have a Q and a U in there. And that makes the K sound. So together that makes unique. Let's air write this letter right now, this word right now with me. U-N-I-Q-U-E. I, Q, U, E. All right. Did you get to practice some letters that you don't write all the time? Good job. All right. Remember, unique. Remember back to last week when we talked about adjectives and adverbs? Which word do you think unique is? Which part of speech? Say it to your TV right now or the person sitting next to you. Did you tell them it was an adjective? If you did, great job. Give yourself a pat on the shoulder. It's an adjective. Remember, adjectives describe nouns. It modifies or describes, so we can say we have a unique snowflake. How about a unique student? Awesome job. All right, so now we know the part of speech, and we know the letters, and we know how to say it. Miss Anna has been working with you on the Freyer model. Today I'm going to show you a little bit different way to break down a vocabulary word. Similar, but slightly different. Let's take a look back here at the chart that I have. So today we're going to take a look at a chart where we do different things with the word. So up at the top, we have a box where we're going to write the word. So if you have a piece of paper and a pencil with you, could you go ahead and draw that rectangle at the top and write in the word unique? I'm going to go ahead and put my word right up here so you can see it. U-N-I-Q-U-E, unique. All right. In our next box, it's a little bit harder to see. I would like to show you the definition of our word and then talk about it. So our definition of unique is being the only one of its kind, unlike anything else. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like you? Remember, you are unique. So how could we put that into our own words? Being the only one of its kind. Can you think of a way to write that in your chart? In your own words? Unlike anything else. I'm going to put my definition up here, and I want you to write yours in your own words. All right, thank you.
2, 1.
Okay, students, were you able to come up with a definition for unique? Write that in that box. Now, the next box over, and I know it's a little tricky to see on my poster, is I would love you to draw a picture. Draw a picture of something that you think is unique. Remember, unique is something that's out of the ordinary. Something that's not regular. Something that you don't do all the time. Let me show you the picture I found, and I think this is a really good illustration of something that is unique. Can you see this picture? So we all know about yellow ducks, right? But look at the unique duck in the middle. He decided to be colored. He is very, or she, is very unique. Can you think of a picture you could draw in that box to represent unique? Some of the things I thought about as I thought about this really wonderful word was a snowflake. Right? I gave you a hint of that earlier. So maybe a snowflake. Maybe your friend, right? Maybe the grown-up in the room with you. They are definitely unique. People are all unique. We have different qualities, right? Some of us are good artists. Some of us are good readers. Some of us are really good at math. So we have all unique characteristics. All right, so that is my picture of my unique duck. All right, The box over here on the left is going to be for a sentence using unique. I would like you to work on that sentence, maybe with the grown-up or on your own, using your own unique brain. And then the box on the right is going to be an antonym. Do you remember what that word antonym means? Right, it means something that is the opposite. So what could be the opposite of this word? Maybe something that is the same. Maybe something that is regular. Once you write that antonym in there, could you write a picture? Could you draw a picture of that for me? Keep that on your sheet of paper and keep that in your writing journal. And then when we come back and you see your new teacher or the teacher that you've been with, they're going to be so excited to see that. Next up, we are going to have Miss Kathy join us to do some word work.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to Word Work with Miss Kathy. I'm so happy to be your teacher again and that we get to work together. All right, readers, let's begin. When I saw you last, it was Monday, and on Monday, we were talking about two inventions in particular that had some special sounds in them. We looked at the word photograph, and when we looked at this word, we noticed that the letters P and H appear twice in this word, and that they do not make the sound p when they're together. Instead, they make a new sound, kind of like the letter F. So we learned that when two letters are together and they make a new sound, a different sound when they're combined, that is called a digraph. And we found in the word photograph, PH, our digraph, 2 times. And then we had another word. We had the word telephone. And we found the letters P and H in this word as well. So we found our digraph, PH, 2 times in the word photograph and 1 time in the word telephone. And we made a sound card for those 2 letters. Now, normally when you're in a classroom, you probably have sound cards all around you, and you get to use them and practice with them every day. So today I'm going to show you how to make other digraph sound cards, and I'm going to show you 2 games that you can play with sound cards once you make them. So for the digraph PH, which makes a sound, go ahead and try that right now. Good job, friends. We drew a picture of a photograph, which we thought was pretty silly, drawing a picture of a photograph so that we could remember the sound that PH make when they're together. We're going to put this card to the side, and we're going to look at our next digraph. And we're going to make a card to go with it. So I'm going to show you a picture. And this picture, I want you to think, what is that of? What am I looking at? And then we're going to try to think, do I know a digraph already that matches that picture? Go ahead and tell somebody if they're watching with you, or say it out loud. What is this a picture of? Well, I see triangle, circle, rectangle. And those are all shapes. Good job, friends. Shapes. This is a picture of the word shapes. Shapes. And I wrote the word right here. Shapes. And we're looking for a digraph in our word shapes, 2 letters that make 1 sound together. And whenever a student is in my classroom and we're looking for digraphs, we're on the hunt, we're going to underline a digraph. We're going to underline those 2 letters that make the same sound. So I'm going to go ahead and underline on my word shapes, and I'd like for you to do the same. S-H. Shapes. Shapes. Go ahead and use your finger if you're watching TV and underline with your finger. S-H. Shapes. S and H is our next digraph. And whenever you see S and H together, we're not going to say We're going to say shh. Let me hear you go shh. Ah, thank you, friends. Okay, so once you have your digraph, SH, we're going to make our digraph card. So we're going to need a piece of paper, and I already folded mine, but I'm going to show you how I did this. I started with a regular sized piece of paper, and I folded it hamburger style, meaning when it's tall, I'm going to fold it down. And then I made a really good crease. And what I'd like for you to do, friends, is to use a pair of scissors. And remember, whenever you're using scissors at home, to ask for help from a grown-up, ask permission first. And we can actually cut our paper in half on the crease that we just made. So go ahead and do that right now, friends. And so now I actually have two pieces of paper so I can get more use out of my one sheet of paper. That's smart, huh? So I want to write my digraph, SH. Now I used a marker so you could see it at home, but whenever I'm doing this like in a classroom, I always say do it in pencil first, because when we make mistakes, it's easier to erase. So I have SH, and then I want to draw a picture to remind me of the sound they make together, which for me was a bunch of shapes that I like. And you can draw whatever shapes you enjoy. So go ahead and do that right now. Underneath SH, I'm going to draw some shapes. Ooh, my favorite shape. I'm going to add one more that I didn't have before. All right, friends. So on my sound card, I have my digraph, and I have my example of it. SH, shapes. Can you think of another word that has the sound sh in it? Maybe a couple words. I thought of another word. I thought of the word shower. Shapes and shower both have SH in them. What's your word with SH in it? Okay, so friends, we now have two sound cards, PH and SH. Let's make our next one. Again, I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to guess, what is that a picture of? I drew this. I'm not the best artist, but I always try my best, and I hope you do too. Okay, so you know what it's a picture of. Do you have a digraph that goes with this picture? This is a picture of a chair. Chair. And I went ahead and wrote down that word for us. A picture of a chair. And there are two letters that make one sound together in the word chair. Those are the letters C and H. So whenever I see a digraph in my classroom, I'm going to underline it to show that those are two letters that make the same sound. And you can do that too, friends. So I have chair, and I have my picture. C and H together, we do not say k, h. We instead say ch. Go ahead and practice that. Ch. Air. Chair. Good job, friends. I'm going to set that down here. Now let's make our sound card. Remember, you have your full-size paper that you folded in half hamburger style, and then you can cut it down the side to get two pieces of paper out of one. And we actually want to write down our digraph. CH. And then we're going to draw our picture that matches our digraph. Let's do that now, friends. Chairs are interesting to draw. It's a bunch of straight lines, and I feel like the angles have to be just right in order for it to look like an actual chair. I'm not the best at perspective drawing, but I did my best. All right, so there is my chair, and I have my digraph, CH. So now we have 3 digraph cards. Boom. All right. I did think of one other word for the digraph, ch. And I've been reading a lot of books lately. You probably have too, and I bet some of you have even been reading chapter books. Ch-apter. Do you say CH together at the beginning of chapter? What's your favorite chapter book? I really like The Magic Tree House. All right. Okay, our last picture today is a little tricky. We're going to do our last digraph. And I'm going to have you look at it and be very careful to think about what is the arrow pointing to. It's a picture of a cat. And something on the cat is our hint for our next digraph. Go ahead and say it out loud if you think you know it. Cats have long whiskers, whiskers. And this is a really hard one. This digraph, I would say, is the trickiest digraph. Cats have whiskers. This is pointing to the top whisker on my cat. And WH, when they're together, we do not say wh, but it's not making a new sound, which makes WH the trickiest digraph. W and H, it's almost like the H is silent. Whisker. Like you could almost pretend it's not there. But when you're writing words, you need to know about WH because it makes sure that you're being a fantastic writer, a fantastic reader, and you know not to say whisker, and instead you say whisker. Okay, friends, we're going to underline that digraph. WH together is what? Beautiful, friends. Now we're ready to make our last sound card. Okay, so for whisker, we are going to do, or for WH, we're going to put our letters at the top, our digraph, WH. And then we want to draw a picture that makes sense for whisker. Usually I think of a cat when I think of their long whiskers, but I actually have a dog at home who has long whiskers too. So you can draw something that makes sense for you. I'm going to draw a cat again. When I draw a cat, I start with a circle for its head. And this is like one of the more difficult ones to draw. 2 triangles for its ears. And then I do a triangle for its nose. And I'm going to do like a W for its mouth. You can draw a little tongue if you want sticking out, add some color to make it beautiful. And then 2 eyes. And now is the important part, the whiskers. And then what I'd like for you to do is to get another color. It could be a crayon, it could be a marker, because we're going to use that different color to really show that we're pointing to the whiskers, because we don't want to say WH cat. That doesn't make sense. Okay. All right, so I have my last sound card, friends. Wow, that was a lot. But you know what? I did think of another word when I was at home thinking about digraphs. With WH in it that is very close to whisker. And it's something we do when we don't want to be super loud. Instead, we want to be quiet. We want to whisper. It's just like the word whisker, except I substituted the K with a P. They both have ER at the end. I like that about these 2 words. And I'm going to underline that digraph. All right, friends. Let's review our sound cards we just created. We have 4 altogether that we've made so far. Our first one we made on Monday, PH for photograph. We made CH for chair. We made SH for shapes. And we made WH for whiskers. Whisker or whiskers. All right, friends. So I told you I would show you 2 games you can play with sound cards once you have them, so you can keep your learning going even when this program is over and I'm no longer with you. All right, so the first game I have is going to require, for everybody who's playing, a piece of paper. And the really cool thing about this game is that you can play it with one person, or you could play it with, like, just by yourself. You could play it with 2, 3, 4, 5. You could play it with your whole family. And so in this game, you have your sound cards mixed up in front of you. And you have them face down so nobody can see which sound card is there. And you will need a pencil, which I recommend. I'm going to use a marker so you can see it a little bit better. But one person is going to flip over a sound card and show everybody else. CH. And then everybody is going to have a piece of paper and their writing tool, and they're going to think, what words do I know with that digraph? And they're going to write as many as they can down in 1 minute. So you'll need somebody to be able to set a timer and say, all right, everybody ready? Go. And then everyone's going to write down as many words as they can with that digraph in it. Oh, I'm going to do my very best for you right now. And I'm going to stop right there. I wrote down 4 words, and they do not all have the digraph at the beginning. The first word I wrote down was lunch. I might be getting hungry. How about you? I'm going to underline that digraph. CH is at the end. Then I wrote down chip. Chip. CH is at the beginning. Then chin. My digraph's at the beginning. And hunch. I need to make sure I'm sitting up straight. I don't want to hunch. So I came up with 4 words. In a minute, I bet I could come up with a lot more, and so could you. So this is a fun game to play with anybody else, even just by yourself, to make sure that you are practicing your digraphs all the time. All right, friends, and the last game I have for you is another one where you have your cards and you mix them up, and they're all in front of you, and you can play this by yourself or with somebody else. You flip it over, and instead of writing down digraphs for this word, if I'm playing with another person, we're going to take turns, and we're going to say a word that starts with this digraph or has this digraph in it, and we're going to go back and forth until nobody can say a new one or until somebody repeats one that's already been said. And whoever wins, whoever's the last person to name a word with this digraph gets to keep the card. And the goal is to go through all of them until they're all gone, and the person with the most cards would win the game. So I'm going to show you an example of that. The word that I picked up, I just had it, was the digraph is SH for shapes, and I would take a turn. I would probably play this with my sister. She and I love to play games together. And you know what? I could even play this with somebody over the phone. And I would say shapes. Maybe that's the first word I say. And my sister would say another one. She might say push, because SH is in there, and then it would be back to me. And I'd have to think of another word that has SH in it. And I have been dreaming about going and playing basketball. I want to shoot some hoops. I'm going to say shoot. And then it'd be up to my sister to say another one. She might say ship. And so we go back and forth. We cannot repeat the same word. And whoever is the last person to say it, which is going to be me this time because she's not here, I get to keep the card. And then we would pick the next card, and we would say PH is our new digraph that we're going to play with. So those are 2 games you can play with somebody to keep your phonics skills sharp, to make reading and writing fun, and you can do it even after our program ends today. So thank you, friends, for coming and sitting and doing word work with Miss Kathy. Up next, we have a beautiful story with Miss Kay, and I know you're absolutely going to love it. Have a great day, friends.
Hello, and welcome back to At Home with APS. I'm Mrs. Kay, and I'm really excited to share a wonderful book with you today. Now, like the book we read on Monday, this book is a nonfiction book. We know it's nonfiction because it deals with real events. It has facts about real people. And this book is going to give us some information about a really interesting woman. The title of the book is The Girl Who Thought in Pictures, the story of Dr. Temple Grandin. This book was written by Julia Finley Mosca, and it was illustrated by Daniel Riley. It was published by the Innovation Press. Now, before we start, let's talk a little bit about why I like this book. I really enjoyed the illustrations or the pictures in this story. And I like that the illustrations give us a lot of information. We know that good readers, you read both the words and the pictures. So while I'm reading the words to you, I want you to read the pictures because they're going to give you even more information than the words do. I also like that this book has rhyming words. I like to read rhyming books out loud. They're fun to read. And you know, if you're sitting with a younger brother or sister or somebody who's working on rhyming words, maybe you can help them listen for the rhyming teams as we read. That might be fun. Now, before we start the book, I want to talk to you a little bit about Temple Grandin. Temple has autism. That might be a word that you've heard before. This means that for her brain worked a little bit differently than her peers when she was in school. And that ended up making some things more difficult for her, but it also meant she had so many wonderful skills. And because of these skills, she was able to change the way that the cattle industry, or how farms, moved and treated animals on the farm. While we're reading, I want you to really listen for times that she used her skills to solve a problem, her unique skills, if we're thinking about our word of the day. Are you ready to go? Let's get started. The Girl Who Thought in Pictures, the story of Dr. Temple Grandin. If you've ever felt different, if you've ever been low, if you don't quite fit in, there's a name you should know. Temple Grandin's that name. In her tale, you'll find glory. So get ready, get set for this cowgirl's true story. In the city of Boston, one hot summer day, a sweet baby was born. It was Temple, hooray! Unique from the start, an unusual girl. She loved spinning in circles and watching things twirl. Did you hear our word of the day? It said she was a unique little girl. Kind of like you all. Each of you are unique. But some things she hated, like certain loud sounds, or bright, crowded places, large cities and towns. Frilly dresses with tags made her itch, pull, and tug. Something else that she hated, a big, squeezy hug. A shy loner, this Temple, but when she got mad, when her feelings of stress and frustration got bad, quite a tantrum she'd throw. Kick, holler, bang, shriek. Yet still, by age 3, not one word did she speak. Sometimes I get mad like that, if I get frustrated. Does that ever happen to you? Before I read this page, I want you to read the picture. Can you find some clues about where she is? I see a stethoscope, a chart. She's in a doctor's office. Let's see what the doctor says. She'll never be normal, was what some did say. Her brain's not quite right. You must send her away. Away? Not my Temple, her mother proclaimed. We will figure this out. You should all be ashamed. Then little by little, though sometimes she balked, special teachers helped Temple. And one day, she talked. And that thing with her brain, it was autism, see? She was different, not less. They all finally agree. Like most kids her age, she loved ice cream and art. But the way Temple thought, that's what set her apart. If something was mentioned, for instance, a fly, in her mind, she'd see dozens of photos buzz by. Wow, let's read this picture together. Our words told us that Temple, when she thought about things, she thought about them in pictures instead of words. Maybe that's how your brain works. Or maybe that's different than the way you think about things. Isn't it great that we all think about things differently? That we all have unique brains? I think so. When the time came for school, let's just say that was hard. Kids taunted and chased her all over the yard. They picked on poor Temple. How crazy it drove her. They teased her for saying things over and over and over and over and over. Why do you think her classmates were mean to her? Was it because she was different than them? That makes me sad. I prefer when we celebrate people's differences. I don't like to see kids pick on each other. Okay, let's get back to the story. Until finally she snapped. Yes, she did, lost her cool, threw a book at a kid, and got kicked out of school. But no one really got Temple. But well, then again, the truth of it was, Temple didn't get them. You'll need time away, said her mom. That's what's best. You'll go visit your aunt on a ranch way out west. So our setting here is going to change. She was in Boston. Now she's moving to a ranch or a farm. And guess what? Fitting in on a farm was less stress, since the pigs didn't care if her hair was a mess. Quite a sweet spot she had for the cows in their herds, such big, gentle beasts who knew nothing of words. As she watched her new friends, a thought popped in her head. These cows think like me, in pictures instead. Let's take a minute to make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen next? It seems like she has a talent, a unique talent for working with animals. At a new school that fall, Temple found more support and a teacher who taught her, you'll never fall short. When you find what you're good at, like science, you'll soar. And that teacher was right. He had opened a door. So she built a machine like she'd seen on some farms, an invention that hugged her with boards and not arms. It worked. She'd done it. From memory, it's true. And just like the cows, it made Temple calm too. So she made this invention. She learned about it while working on the farm. It was almost like this little area that gave her a little hug. Because remember, she didn't like being hugged with arms. But this made her feel more comfortable. What a cool invention. I'm special, she thought, like a bright shooting star. My attention to details can help me go far. Through her studies, she learned there were farms not so kind. I will help them, she said. Some solutions she'd find. Ooh, let's read this picture together. We have a lot going on here. So I see Temple has thoughts. Some of them are green. That makes me think these are good things. And some of them are red. Maybe these are problems she sees. She sees that some cows are kind of getting stuck and running into each other. Oh, I can see that this cow seems sad. You might not be able to see it. He has a little teardrop. Maybe she knows that some cows are getting stressed. I also see this picture. These cows are walking through this shape, this S shape, squiggly shape. These seem to be happier. I don't know a lot about cows. This is interesting to me. And then something cool. Can you guess? Could it be? Off to college she went. A degree, she earned 3. And though ladies weren't experts on farms at that time, do you think that stopped Temple? No way. She did fine. She stepped through that door and went forward. No tears. She took on the world, but at times she had fears. Because some things were scary, like people she'd meet, who'd ignore her ideas and, well, wouldn't be sweet. Wow, she went to college and earned 3 degrees. That's impressive. She must be very hardworking, like you. But she never gave up, learned her stuff through and through, like why cattle will circle and what makes them moo. To build better farms was her goal. She would do it. Be kind to our creatures. They have feelings. She knew it. I recognized this shape from the other picture. Wow, I bet these cows are happier cows. And slowly but surely, she changed many minds until farm after farm built her awesome designs. Word spread about Temple. Her feet's not so small. Temple Grandin, she's grand. She's the grandest of all. Oh, here's that S shape we saw that she was thinking about before. I like that this invention started as an idea in her head to solve a problem. And look, there it is. Wow. Now, for these things and more, she won honors and prizes, and a movie was made. But the biggest surprise is that girl with the future that couldn't be bleaker, yes, the once silent girl, she is now a big speaker. Today, she spreads hope with her stories and speeches. From New York to Sydney to Rome, Temple teaches. Each person... Ooh, I made a mistake. I'm going to start that over. Sometimes good readers make mistakes and they just have to rewind and read it again. Each person is special. So unique are our minds. This world needs your ideas. It takes brains of all kinds. I like that message. All of our brains work differently. We have different ideas, different opinions. That's what makes life interesting. So here is the lesson. Feeling odd or offbeat, being different might just be what makes you so neat. Don't let doubt hold you back, not for 1 minute more. Stand tall and like Temple, march right through that door. Wow, what a wonderful book. Now, before we end, this part's really interesting. This is a letter that Temple Grandin wrote to the reader, to you. I'm going to read it to you. She says, "Dear reader, as a child, I was really glad that my mother always encouraged my ability in art. I encourage you to find something that you are good at and work on developing it. If you're interested in becoming a scientist, like me, find cool new ways to look at things, such as microscopes or telescopes. Explore nature. Think up your own hands-on science experiments. Keep learning, especially from your mistakes." From Temple Grandin. And there's a picture of her. I don't know if you can see that, with her cows. Wow, this was a really wonderful nonfiction book. I'm going to use this book today as inspiration to think about things that make me unique, that make me different, but special. And just like her letter said, maybe I'm going to think about something that I'm good at and try to work on that today.
I encourage you to do the same thing. I know you have a lot of unique skills and thoughts. Thank you for taking time to read with me. Next up, we have a little writing activity with Miss Lori. I can't wait to see what she has for us.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to today's lesson. We're going to finish up today with some more writing. Remember, on Monday, we started talking about Cinquain writing, and today we are going to get an opportunity to write some Cinquains of our own. But I want to go through and remind you of the way that a Cinquain poem goes. So here's what you have to remember about Cinquain poetry. So the first thing we have to remember is that Cinquain poems can be written about anything. So we've been talking about inventions and innovation over the last couple weeks. So we can try and write one about that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Or you can choose to write one about anything that you want. This is really important. Cinquain poems, they have 5 lines, okay? The syllable count pattern for a Cinquain poem is the first line has 2 syllables, the next line has 4, then we go to 6, 8, and then back to 2. So remember last time we talked about that it's skip counting by 2. So it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, back to 2. And that gets us 5 lines. So we're going to brainstorm first. That's the first part. So just like with any other kind of writing that you're going to do, you're going to want to do your brainstorm first. And then we're going to count our syllables. And we're going to practice counting our syllables here in a minute on the poem that I shared with you last time about my favorite thing to do in the evenings, which is eat ice cream. So we're going to count our syllables. And then we're going to center our poem on the page. And remember, the great thing about Cinquain poetry is it doesn't have to rhyme. Some kinds of poetry, you do have to try and rhyme. But Cinquain poetry, it doesn't matter. You can rhyme it if you want, if you're feeling like that's something you want to do, or you can just not rhyme it. And I'm going to tell you, today, I'm not much of a rhymer, so our poetry today isn't going to have a rhyme to it. But you certainly can practice and do yours as a rhyme. And then I think this is probably the most important part of any type of writing that we do. You'll want to have fun with it, because if it's not fun, then you don't really want to do it. So let's make it fun, so we all want to do it. So again, real quickly, they can be about anything. They have 5 lines. We have our counting pattern of 2, 4, 6, 8. 8. And then back to 2 syllables. We're going to brainstorm. We're going to count our syllables out. We're going to center it. I'm not going to rhyme mine, but at home you certainly can rhyme yours. And then we're going to have some fun doing it. So let's look over here and review our poem that we looked at on Monday. So it's on ice cream, and remember I told you Miss Lori loves ice cream, and I can't even say I have a favorite ice cream, just as long as it's ice cream, or frozen yogurt or frozen custard. I love all those things, but we're going to go with ice cream today. So the first line is ice cream. Second line, cold and yummy. Third line, I love its sweet richness. Fourth line, as it finds its way into my, last line, tummy. So let me find a marker. Here we go, nice blue marker. I love blue. And we're going to see if when I wrote this, I counted my syllables correctly. So remember, the first line in a Cinquain poem has 2 syllables. Now I want you to think back to when your teacher has taught you in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, if you're a third grader, and third grade, how to count syllables. Now, some of us learn to count syllables, and I've done this a few different ways. When I was a child, which was way long ago, I admit, we counted syllables by putting our hand under our chin, and every time your chin hit your hand, you knew that that was a syllable. So you can count them that way. Or when I taught first and second grade, we clapped syllables sometimes, or we tapped syllables. So you can decide if you want to do that, or sometimes I've even seen people tapping them on their arm. So you figure out what way you would like to tap out your syllables, and you can try more than one if you want, and we'll see if we did this correctly. I'm going to tap out using my pointer. So we're looking for 2 syllables here. Ice, 1 syllable. Cream, 2 syllables. So I did okay there. The next line is supposed to have how many? 4. Cold and yummy. So that's 4 syllables. Now we move to our skip count of 6. I love its sweet richness. 6 syllables. We did okay there. Oh, meant to be writing this down so you could see it. So we have 2 syllables here, 4 syllables here, 6 syllables here, and then what do we have? What are we looking for in this line? I'm going to read it, and I want you to count the syllables this time. As it finds its way into my. I came up with 8. I hope that's the number you came up with. And then we have tummy. That's 2. So we did okay on this one by finding all of our syllables. Okay? So now we're going to get ready to write another one, and I'm going to show you how this goes. Okay, so here I am going to write one about my messy room. So as you notice up here on our template, I wrote it out, or our graphic organizer is another way to call a template. I wrote what kind of poetry we're doing, which is Cinquain. Our first line should have 2 syllables. Our next line, 4, 6, 8 syllables, and then down to 2. I'm going to do one about, I'm going to put it over here. I know the title should go in the middle, but I want you to remember it's a Cinquain poem. So, my messy room. Because let me tell you, I actually do kind of have a messy bedroom. I try to keep it clean, but it sometimes gets messy. So I think back to when I was a child, and my mom was always on me to keep my room clean. And it just honestly was not a priority of mine. But that's why I thought I'd write about this. So my first line, my room. My room. 2 syllables. Then my next one is such a mess. Is such a mess. 4 syllables. Then the next line should have 6. Get my tape circles going. Toys all over the place. I think I may have wrote this wrong. Toys all over, I forgot the word the. Teachers do it too. Sometimes we're writing so fast. So here's my third line. And this was back when I was a kid. Today, it would be books. I have books everywhere in my room. And then my fourth line is my longest line here. And this is what my mom always used to say to me. Mom says, and just let me point this out to you, when somebody's speaking, you put a comma afterwards. And then she says, clean up. And I put quotation marks because she said it. But I like it like this. All right, I just got the signal that our time is almost up, so we will finish our Cinquain poetry on Friday when we meet again. But before we go, I just want to think about all of the amazing things that we got to learn today with all of our teachers that worked with us. First, we had up Miss Kraft, who taught us about our vocabulary word today, unique, how we are all very unique. Then we had word work with Miss Kathy, who taught us all about these different digraphs. We had ch, we had wa, pa, and sh. And then we read a great story about the girl who could picture words. And then we did some more Cinquain. So our time is up, friends, and we look forward to seeing you on Friday. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us today for At Home with APS.